And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Unwelcome Podcast. And I'm coming to you late this evening to talk about the Washington Post article that was written on uh, my efforts here in Oklahoma. So I think it's worth noting that the Washington Post, in this article at least, has largely told the correct story in terms of who said what, who did what, and when it happened, and how it happened, and the results, which is surprising, to be honest. And Kimberly Kindy did a pretty good job of getting getting the right story here, um, at least in terms of what each side said and what actually resulted from it. Because I will be honest, it's a little disconcerting to have some of my friends claim a win here when all the Republicans really did was kick the can down the road. Now, I'm not saying there's no win here. What we got from the governor was a promise. Okay. But the prohibition on these surgeries is not what it appears to be, or is not what the Oklahoma leadership wants you to think it appears to be. And because there were specifics of this story that in my own reporting got ignored when the Republicans took it up and started throwing it around. Now, again, we are moving in the right direction. Kind of. The governor has admitted that this needs to stop in Oklahoma. But that's the extent of his involvement, number one, when he could have called a special session. He absolutely could have called a special session and chose not to, and kicked the can down the road to February. But don't misunderstand something here. Don't misunderstand what has happened here. We'll explain. I'm going to go through this article. I'm going to explain to you what happened, how it progressed, because even like I said, some of the people I've worked with in the past, have muddied the waters here to make this look like this giant win. And my case for that is, when you make something look like too much of a win, you undermine the win you can get later. Okay? You undermine that when you spike the ball too hard, and the populace that actually got this going, because it was the people who called and got this ball rolling and got the legislators worried about what was going to happen, that actually did this. So if that populace is satisfied with the result, but that result is not what it's billed to be, we've got a problem in February, don't we? Right? And that's what Oklahoma is used to doing. It's used to spiking the ball for a no-win win. And I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. I don't care how big your platform is. I don't care, whether you got 400,000 Twitter followers or 10 or 20 or whatever it is. Okay, guys? I don't care. I'm going to tell you the truth as it happened. And the Washington Post here at least outlined the order of events, which were being muddied, and the result that came from it. So let's just get right into the article here. We're going to read and go through it, and I'll explain as we go, because she does actually a good job of outlining the order of events. And what she also does a good job of stating what the other side said about it. And I can give you the truth on that as well. Because again, I was the only person on the ground here covering this. I broke this story. I broke it when I broke it for a reason. And the establishment honestly grabbed up this person here and this person there, even on my own side, and tried to cover their ass with it. And I think that those who sit high atop the thing need to rely on their friends on the ground when it comes to their own states. And understand that in red states, we're not dealing with the same thing you're dealing with in Washington and California, which is the blue opposition. We're dealing with opposition from within the Republican Party. Because again, The legislature in Oklahoma is overwhelmingly Republican. They can do anything they want, but the leadership in the Republican Party here is corrupt. They're absolutely corrupt, and they will lie and sneak stuff past you and claim to be the most virtuous people on the planet while they do it, and wrap themselves in their nice red cloak. All right, they'll wrap themselves in their nice red cloak, and people that come in from outside and look at it, they'll think, oh well, you just got to win. Look, you got somebody that said they're going to do something, and they're going to do something in February. Yeah, it's the people on the ground who know the political situation, who actually know the players, who've dealt with them before, that can give you the real story here. And that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I've tried to do from the beginning. But I'll tell you, there's establishment interests in this state that have a vested interest in me not grabbing a hold of this narrative and unpacking it for those who they seek to take advantage of. And I'll just say that one of the primary examples of that is the Daily Wire. It is, and I would love to talk to those guys. I've tried to reach out to those guys and let them know what's going on. But if they won't, if we are the people who work off objective facts, if we claim to be the people who don't get wrapped up in narrative over truth, then we need to be that. And part of that, my esteemed conservative outlets, is not spiking the ball when you shouldn't, not giving credit when you shouldn't, and actually getting the full story from people on the ground, and not believing every bad thing that the establishment may say about people like me. Because that's the other thing, and I know that's going on because I've had it reported to me. And so I would challenge the Daily Wire, I would challenge these other outlets, I would challenge my larger friends who have larger followings to reach out to me when it comes to things in my state. Because my reporting on this was good. I broke the story. I gave you the facts, and I followed as it went and tried to tell people where the misdirection was happening. And I'll tell you, I was pretty scared to talk to this. Scared, I mean, I was very nervous to talk to a Washington Post reporter. This is my first time dealing with the Washington Post, and you always hear I've seen them do bad things to Chris Rufo. I've seen them do bad things and just completely knock stuff, off the truth in their reporting to other people, and that's objective. I've seen it. But Kimberly Kindy here, she actually dug into this, and she got the order of events right, and she correctly reported what both sides were saying. And I think come to the summation that, if you read this, it wasn't the win that we're seeing coming out of every other news outlet and from the big conservative talking heads on Twitter. And all of that is really to protect this governor in his election fight, when one, I just do not believe that he's in any real danger. I would like to see a real poll done by Trafalgar here. I would like to see a real poll done by the Gateway or by Richard Barris, people that you can trust with polling, but you don't seem to see that here. So there's this narrative of, we have to all gather around Stitt no matter what he does or doesn't do. Yeah, I'm not buying it, because they did this in 2018 and the man won by like 20 points. All right. So in my viewpoint, and I could be wrong. Okay. I'm not saying I'm the be all end all. I'm just telling you what I've seen and what I see here on the ground, and with the politicians I deal with that honestly are used to dealing within the state apparatus, and everybody ignores Oklahoma. Everybody ignores Oklahoma because nobody really, this is one of the few times you'll see it make national news outside of when they ban abortion, which again, we can talk about that, or when they save women's sports. Yeah, that was another snow job. Okay. But in this situation, the governor could have done something. The state legislature could have done something, and they chose not to because they have a super majority here. And they're using this false reason of, oh, we're scared we're going to lose elections. BS. BS. Hello, Wikipedia snippet. Hello, Red Pill Broadcast. It is good to see you guys. I have to say, if you want to like, subscribe, hit the channel, hit the bell, so you know when I'm coming up. Share this video, please do that. Super chats are open, so if you want to throw that at me, I would really appreciate it. But this is my first mention in the Washington Post. I figure, hey, why not? It's a bit of congratulations, right? I did a lot of work to get this done, and I did a lot of work to shine a light on a place that usually is very, very ignored. And that's one thing that this article does get correct. And I do appreciate that, because I worked hard and I don't have, my own media company or anything like that. This is just me sitting in front of my computer right here in front of a wrinkled green screen behind me and a old OU cap. Okay. So, but I would appreciate that. So let's dive in here. So the title, Oklahoma, I like this, the COVID money trail. Exactly. Okay. Oklahoma GOP ties hospitals' COVID funds to end of gender affirming care. Republicans threatened to withhold $108 million in federal funds if one of the state's biggest hospitals systems didn't cease the procedures. Okay. And herein lies the problem, is that, well, we'll get to it. Okay. And this is by Kimberly Kindy. Again, thank you for your pretty solid reporting here. I stand corrected, at least in terms of her and her reporting at the Washington Post. Okay. All right, let's dive into this. So when Oklahoma lawmakers met last week to distribute more than $108 million in federal pandemic relief funds for one of the state's largest hospital systems, many expected a routine vote in favor of upgrading its medical records and a cancer treatment center. Okay. Now, there was obviously more involved in this, and the medical records are specifically tied to the reason why I'm so worried about this with the ARPA funding. So the reporter here presents it in a very kind of stale way, but the medical records are actually a huge part of this, and I've talked about that before. Okay, but moving forward, instead, Republican lawmakers added an explosive provision. Excuse me. OU Health would only get these funds, including $39.4 million for a new pediatric mental health facility, if its Oklahoma Children's Hospital stopped providing gender-affirming care. Now, when I said they got it right, I said mostly, and there's still the Washington Post bend to this, okay? There is still the Washington Post bend, okay? Because mental health, OU Children's is a conduit for these procedures, they do the hormone therapy, they do the puberty blockers in-house, and they've done several. I'm sorry. They've done several top surgeries and even a few bottom surgeries, but they send those surgeries across the street and then take the kids back to convalesce. So when you talk about this what they're going to talk about, this new mental health facility, that's a 70-bed mental health facility in a state that doesn't have that kind of mental health problem. So what this money is being used for is to build the infrastructure to house these kids before and after their procedures. Because the clinics that do them, with the surgeons who do them, which again are not barred from anything in this, the Roy G. Biv program can go, hey, just go across the street, get your stuff, and come back here, and we'll help you with your mental care now with this provision. So you must understand that it has stopped almost nothing. Just get that right out of the gate. Moving forward, and I'll explain more as we go on. The move, which Oklahoma Governor Kevin J. Stitt, Republican, signed into law on Tuesday, today, marks the first time conservative lawmakers have successfully tied gender-affirming care to the receipt of funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. The $1.9 trillion effort to restart the economy and harden medical care during the coronavirus pandemic. Now, What my main issue with this was that if them taking this money at all was Oklahoma taking the poison pill, because this under guise of mental health and COVID, you are letting in the poison, because what the data and the record stuff is going to take is going to take data right from your kids that are being handed out thanks to an Oklahoma 2021 law, right? In surveys, they have to take that data and hand it to the CDC to get the next round of funding. It's called community reporting. So these records are actually going to help them get the next round of funding. Get it? It's going to feed itself. And this bed increase, this mental health facility, is a convalescence for kids that they're going to run through this place like sausages. Because again, this is Oklahoma Children's Hospital. All right? And anyone who's written on this, anyone has gotten that information right from me. And I've got the recordings to prove that. So I just got to say that, because I'm kind of tired of being usurped, because I've worked really, really, really hard on this, and the information I'm giving you is correct. And it's more correct than anybody else is saying it, because they don't have the full picture. Moving forward, Oklahoma Republicans who were pushed into action through a campaign led by a pair of conservative podcasters, okay? All right. Hailed the move as necessary to restrict the type of medical care for young transgender patients that has riled the party's base this year. And a quotation, quote, "By signing this bill today, we are taking the first step to protect children from permanent transgender surgeries and therapies," Stitt said in a statement. "It is wildly inappropriate for taxpayer dollars to be used for condoning, promoting, or performing these types of controversial procedures on healthy children." Now, here's the thing. State taxpayer dollars have been going towards this. Just because we didn't allocate the federal funds, right? State taxpayer dollars have been going towards this for years. And these officials know that. I brought up the ARPA funding, but if you read my first article written on 9/15, September 15th, my point wasn't even about the ARPA funding. My point was about the fact that OU Board of Regents voted to unify all of the medical system under one umbrella, under the University OU Medical Authority. And from that moment forward, the Roy G. Bibb program was being supported by taxpayer dollars, state taxpayer dollars, ladies and gentlemen, state taxpayer dollars. All right? So, yes, we used the federal funds to halt this, kind of, or give it the appearance of halting it. But state taxpayer dollars have been going to this since at least June of 2021. And there are a giant number of legislators, and I would say the governor, that know this and have denied bills that came up in 2021 before. See, here's the really pernicious, evil part of this, ladies and gentlemen. This is something you need to understand, is that Senator Warren Hamilton submitted a bill in February of 2021 to stop transgender and to make it illegal, these surgeries, right? He did that, and it was knocked back by the leadership, of whom I'm going to really, really start naming names. But you can always go to Greg Treat. You can always go to Speaker McCall, right? But they knew that, and they also knew this, that just a few months later, the OU Board of Regents would be voting to unify this system. So they knew in February, when they knocked this bill back, right? When they knocked the bill back, they knew that this vote was coming up, and they didn't want to do anything to stop it or to bring any attention to it, because there's lots of money to be made here, ladies and gentlemen. Lots and lots and lots of corrupt money. And it's on the back and the mutilation of children. So the timeline here is really important, and that's what was in my first article. And it got overshadowed by the ARPA funding. But the Republicans who allowed this to keep happening, which actually includes every Republican up there because they weren't sounding the alarm as this ARPA funding was coming aboard, which they shouldn't be taking anyway. This is a Republican state. Cowards. I had to bring it up. Little nobody me sitting in my room with a wrinkled green screen and a laptop. Man. Sorry, it pisses me off. It should piss you off. Moving forward. Some advocates worry the latest move in Oklahoma might embolden other legislatures with Republican majorities to add similar restrictions before allocating federal and state money to publicly funded hospitals and clinics. Maybe. We'll see. That would be a great thing, actually, because I'm telling you, this ARPA money is the poison pill. This is designed to set up an entire establishment that will be built upon and used to monetize your children into the medical system for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. This ARPA funding is the poison pill. And man, these Republicans did everything they could to take it. And they lied. They absolutely lied. Moving forward, hundreds of anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced in state legislatures in recent years. It's not anti-LGBTQ to say you don't or shouldn't mutilate children before they're 18 at the very least. Kids do not need to be affirmed in that kind of situation. I'm not going to let my kid get a tattoo. I'm not going to let them cut off the private parts of their breasts or take hormone therapies that might stunt them and castrate them or make them infertile for the rest of their lives. That's not anti-LGBTQ. That's pro-child. Moving forward, this year, at least 160 measures were considered, with nearly 2/3 of them focused on transgender rights. No, they're focused on children's rights. And guess what? Sometimes you need to tell a kid that they shouldn't do something to protect their rights in the future. Right? The kid wants to go up and grab a pot of boiling water off of the stove, ladies and gentlemen. You don't affirm that action. You smack that hand so they don't burn themselves. You put them through a tiny bit of discomfort so they don't scar themselves. We are not anti-LGBTQ. We are pro-child. So another spot where the Washington Post was the Washington Post. Okay. This year, at least 160 measures were considered, with nearly 2/3 of them focused on transgender rights. Oklahoma was part of this trend, with bill restricting bathrooms and sports access for transgender residents. Okay. And we can talk about the Save the Women's Sports Act, but it actually allows for the thing it claims to stop. Sorry for you, Governor. Not my problem. You should have done it right. But you had to save that $10 million from championships at the NCAA, didn't you? Get over yourself. I'm so tired of hearing, well, don't you want the governor to be reelected? Don't you want the governor to be... I want the governor to get what he deserves. Just because he's a Republican doesn't mean he's doing the right thing. And when he lies to the populace to get credit for something he didn't do or overlooked, nope, you don't get credit from me, brother. Sorry. You don't get credit from me. And you shouldn't get credit from anybody else for lying to your voters. I want you to win. But I want you to win less when you don't do what you say you're going to do, but said you did it anyway. With Republicans like that, who needs Democrats? Moving forward, transgender advocates and medical experts, though, say OU Health's facilities had been following best practices in its gender-affirming care. Best practices. Funny. best practices in gender affirming care. I'm not sure that's possible, but we'll see. Okay. OU health officials would not outline which services will halt as a result of the legislation. No, they won't. They never said. And when they say the OU health officials, nobody signed the damn paper. Whoever this one person is that's OU health, nobody put their name to it. So who are we going to hold accountable? I'm telling you what happened was because they tried to pull this wool over my eyes about this bill. Oh, we're going to stop it. We're going to stop it. And hey, look, Mark, this is good. They came on my show and this will be good. We can stop this 95%, all this stuff. And I didn't buy it. And so what they did is they called up their buddies at OU. Hey guys, we got a problem here. You want your money. You got to come out and say you got to do this. So they put out a letter without anybody's name on it. So you couldn't call anybody out. And they said, we're going to stop some gender affirming services, but did not define which ones they were. You see that you see the manipulation here? And this is where Washington Post gets it right out of the gate. I mean, they actually get it right. They report what happened. OU health officials would not outline which services will be halted as a result of the legislation. But one Oklahoma pediatrician who treats transgender youth in the region, now wait a minute. I want you to know that the narrative from the left around the state is that this doesn't happen in kids, that transgender surgeries and these procedures don't happen in kids, especially the bottom surgeries. But I know of at least 3 off the top of my head that have. Moving forward, but one Oklahoma pediatrician who treats transgender youth in the region said she believes all hormone therapy and surgeries will cease. That's what she believes. See, they will protect this by pretending they're upset about it. But she's just saying what she believes. The OU Health Authority didn't define it. See, now everybody looks like they're on the right side here. The Republicans claim a win. These people still get their money. And then they look upset about it. So, it's theater. It's absolute theater. In order to receive this treatment, they will now have to go out of state. That's what she believes. She has no proof of that. But let me tell you something I said in my first article. I said that OU Children's facilitates these surgeries. All they have to do, there are at least 2 surgeons I know of that I'm going to be bringing about that do these surgeries in Oklahoma, and they are not a part of the OU health system specifically. So all they have to do is send them over and then come back for convalescence. Mental health crisis. You see the grift? You see it? In order to receive this treatment, they will now have to go out of state, Shauna Lawless said. About 100 children are receiving gender-affirming care at the center, said State Senator Carrie Hicks told reporters. 100 children. And they want to expand this center by 70 kids. Does it sound like they're going to stop this practice after they expand the center? Because again, this money's going to make a facility that will increase the center by 70 beds. Parents of transgender children, moving forward, parents of transgender children. Hold on. You said youth age not stipulated. Notice that the children that they are targeting are little girls. Absolutely, they're little girls. 100%. I mean, mostly 100% they're little girls. This is evil. And the Republicans just, hey, give me my money. Give me my money. Feckless cowards. Parents of transgender children who are receiving care at Oklahoma Children's Hospital say they may have to travel to Kansas or Colorado. May. They're lying to you. They want you to believe that's what they're going to have to do, but really all they got to do is go to Tulsa at the furthest. But really, I'm going to say they really have to go a few blocks away in Oklahoma City. Because again, this only applies to OU Health System. Nothing else. Shane Poindexter, whose 14-year-old transgender son has been treated at the hospital for a year, is receiving hormone suppression drugs, said his son had attempted suicide before going to the clinic. Dear God. It is someplace they can go and be who they are and be accepted. Kids are bullies, Poindexter said. He was mentally destroying him. It was mentally the love and affection from this place is amazing. We don't know what we are going to do now. Again, they never said which services they were going to halt. And this is just based upon what they believe and what they're saying to the reporter. Dear God. Okay. The federal stimulus included about $350 billion to prop up state and local government budgets with virtually no strings attached. That's a lie. The strings attached are the data that they have to report back to get the money. Because that's what the government's after, because this money is doled out by the CDC. And that's what is the most monetizable aspect of our lives these days? It's data. Remember when we switched from paying for single text messages and minutes on our phones to paying for data? Facebook is billion dollar company. Why? Data. This is all about data. And a lot of it comes from these health surveys that Oklahoma made mandatory in 2021. And so they're literally monetizing your children via their data. Moving forward. By late last year, as it became clear that the economy was recovering far faster than lawmakers had expected, no way. It paved the way for states to put the aid to use in unanticipated ways. No way. You mean we extended? You mean COVID? Let me make sure I say this right for YouTube. You mean COVID lasted maybe a little bit longer in terms of the restrictions in order to justify people to get more money to use for things that had nothing to do with COVID? No. Who would do such a thing? OU was kicking kids out of class for not wearing masks when it would have already been proven almost beyond a shadow of a doubt that they didn't do, that they weren't needed at the time. Objectively, at the time. In Oklahoma, the legislature opened a public portal last year, allowing for any state resident to submit a request for discretionary funds. They received more than 1,400 proposals that a state legislative committee reviewed this summer before sending dozens of them to the full legislature for a vote. Interesting, huh? The state and local funds are part of a bigger pool of nearly $5 trillion with a T that Washington sent out in the first 2 years of the pandemic, created an unprecedented challenge to account for how the money was spent. And we wonder why we're in an inflation right now, why we're having such inflation right now. With almost no rules on how states use their share, some Republican governors have tried to pay for tax cuts with the aid. For example, in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis and other GOP legislators used the interest they earned on federal aid to pay for a $12 million fund that covered the cost of flying migrants to Massachusetts last month. Well, I mean, come on. At least it was it was done for a proper troll, ladies and gentlemen. Biden paid to troll himself. Gotta love that. Children's hospitals around the country have also faced escalating threats of violence over online anti-LGBT campaigns targeting gender-affirming care. Okay, so now I want to point this out. There was absolutely no threats made by me or Megan Fox or any of the other people involved with us that were doing this. The only kind of threats that we made were to legislatures, and they were not violent. They were just saying, we're going to make sure everybody knows what you do. So there were no threats of violence coming from us. And I will remind everybody, super chats are open. I do this stuff for free. So, but I appreciate y'all being here. Don't feel, but it's like, I'm supposed to say that every now and then. That's what I've been told. So I appreciate that if you got it in there. If not, but I appreciate everybody being here. Chase K, Melinda, Wikipedia snippet, Red Pill broadcast. Thanks for being here, guys. So then now we get into the threats, right? They always claim that there are threats, but I tell you, it did not come from us. The people we were focused on were Republicans. And actually, those threats, Wendy Suarez at Fox News 25 couldn't produce any proof of them in Oklahoma and here in Oklahoma City. And actually, when I called and Megan called, they wouldn't release the information. Or one of the people actually said to me, she didn't know about any threats at all. Right? So again, they throw this out there, and I'm telling you, nobody connected to me. And if there was anybody that did that connected to me, if I found out about it, I would expose them. Because that's just useless. You're just hurting the cause, and you shouldn't be threatening people with violence. You want to threaten lawmakers with, I'm going to make sure everybody knows what you do? That's fine. But under no circumstances do you threaten anybody, any situation, with any type of violence. Period. It does nobody any good, and it's just wrong. Moving forward, some states have taken other actions to block public funds from being used for transgender care. This year, Florida became one of at least 10 states to have blocked Medicaid coverage for their procedures. Don't think Oklahoma's done that. Quote, it's so outrageous and unbelievably mean-spirited, said Catherine Oakley, state legislative director and senior counsel of the Human Rights Campaign, which advocates for LGBT community in reference to Oklahoma's bill. It's literally about COVID relief. Wait a minute. No. We just established up in the floor that states have been using this now for stuff that is beyond COVID relief. It's about restarting the economy. Nope, we've already said the economy was restarting itself already before this money ever hit anything. The Washington Post just said that. Right up here at the top, right? The push to end OU's health transgender care was accelerated by two conservative podcasters who last month began demanding action from legislators on their programs and social media. Moving forward, here's where we get the part where we talk about what happened here. The target of their ire was the Roy G. Bibb program at Oklahoma's Children's Hospital, for which for the last 6 years has offered mental health counseling and hormone therapy, including puberty blockers. 6 years. Oklahoma. Got to make that money. In a handful of cases, it has also referred patients transitioning from female to male to surgeons for mastectomies. So little girls getting their breasts cut off. Because in my first article, I put in there that they were boasting about providing this care or facilitating this care for kids under the age of 16, that they were the only group in the state to provide the care for kids under the age of 16. So I'll just read that part again. In a handful of cases, it has also referred patients transitioning from female to male to surgeons for mastectomies. Mark Ousley, that's me, appealed to his 20,000 Twitter followers and listeners to his Oklahoma-based Unwelcome podcast. Got a shout out in the Washington Post. Great. Okay. In mid-September to call on lawmakers and demand OU's Health's federal money be withheld. So I wrote the article and broke the story on September 15th. And immediately, once it started going around Oklahoma, people started calling. And I was already getting feelers from legislators around here going, "Oh, what's going on?" The first message I got was from a legislator. "Hey, you send me a list of whatever you want, brother, legislative, and we'll make sure we get that done." I knew something was up. I was like, "Wait a minute. These are people that have been ignoring me for a long time, and I get a random message?" I knew something was up because people started calling on the 16th, and then libs of TikTok retweeted my stuff. And they didn't mention that in here, even though I gave that information to the reporter. But that's what really got it going. And then people really got scared. And this is before Megan jumped on. It's before anybody else jumped on. So in mid-September, Mark Ousley appealed to his 20,000 Twitter followers and listeners to his Oklahoma-based Unwelcome podcast in mid-September to call on lawmakers to demand OU Health's federal money be withheld. He was later joined by Megan Fox, a conservative podcaster. She's actually she works for she works for conservative media company, who broadcast the calls she made. Yes, she did. Lawmakers and provided her 23,000 Twitter followers with scripts to do the same. Yes, but I will say this: the calls were well underway before Megan even jumped on. They were already nervous, and I asked Megan to come on to help with it. And I quote, so I'm going to quote myself here. "I am going to make it my mission in life to shame any Republican that votes for this," Ousley wrote in September 25 tweet. Yes, I absolutely did. And all but 4 voted for it. All but 4 voted for this money. And I am going to make my mission in life to shame every single one that didn't. Every single one. Transgender advocates and Oklahoma lawmakers said the campaign had a noticeable effect. Yeah, it did. Because they caucused. They caucused before I even wrote my second article about the ARPA funding. I hadn't even connected this to the ARPA funding yet. When I was getting notices that they were caucusing about what I had brought up. Because that's how many calls were already going to them. There was already a campaign well underway. One of them spent the entire day live streaming. Actually, both of us did at different times, calling legislative staff, asking them why they were committing child abuse. Yes, and Megan did a really good job with that. She put those calls on the air, and she's a pro like that. I mean, she knows how to do that stuff. She did a good job with it. Policy director for the American Civil Liberties Union of Oklahoma. There was a lot of inflammatory language. It built momentum. What? Inflammatory language like you're mutilating our kids? Because you are, and you're using taxpayer dollars to do it? That's not inflammatory. It's called the truth. That's called the truth. Republicans introduced the bill September 28th, and I knew that was coming. See, this is something I will take credit for. I've been holding this information, waiting for this ARPA bill to come up. And this is the only thing I know. So, but there's other things to come. But I've been waiting because I've learned a lot of lessons over the last 2 years dealing with these people, that if you tell them anything, they will use it against you and protect themselves. Won't you guys? And I guarantee you, They've made a concerted effort to get my voice out of this, even by just funneling people to Megan at different points. Because they know she doesn't know what I know about this stuff. Even the stuff I've told her, she can't connect all together. She doesn't know the people. I'm not saying she's not great. I'm not saying she didn't do a good job. But you can't, and I think she would tell you this as a reporter, there's nothing you can do to substitute being on the ground and having relationships with people and knowing where the players are and what they've done in the past. And then other people jumping in, what the Republicans wanted here was to claim a win without winning anything, without having to do anything. And ultimately, sadly, in this situation, they pretty much got that. But at least we got a promise out of the governor. So we'll see how that goes. Yes, and I want to say this. Megan helped out a lot. I'm not trying to say she's bad or anything like that. Megan helped out a lot. But you have to understand, being somebody who's in a blue state, the way things are done in a uniparty red state. It's really no different than the uniparty blue state. So it's just that there are people who play both sides of the coin. They present you and they're like, oh, look, we'll give you access to this group and you'll have so many clicks here. And we'll give you access to this group and they'll go read your articles. And then, and who doesn't want that, obviously? And I'm not impugning Megan's motives. I think that she was trying to help and she did. There's no disputing that at all. I'm not speaking ill of her. I'm just saying, I did try to say, and there's actually a podcast where she comes on because she got played by one of the senators. She got played and was really pissed off about it. Go look at my podcast with her. I think it's the one where I interviewed Jake Merrick. She jumps on at the end and is absolutely pissed off because they did a press conference and didn't tell her about it and wouldn't give her the live stream to it and let her cover it. And I told her, I was like, I'm 15 minutes away, Megan. And they made sure I couldn't get there to cover it. But then what they do, they shared, instead of sharing my stuff, which I've been throwing out, they shared her stuff with their big groups, and they get a lot of clicks from that. Right? Because they figured out that they can't buy me with stuff like that. And she might be more applicable to it or more accepting of it. And then say this is a win. And I'm not saying she did or didn't do whatever. I'm glad that she got some good. She was doing good work, okay? But you are more easily played by people you don't know. I'm sure if I walked into New York politics, I would get run around because I just don't know the players. I don't know the game up there. And it's different in every state. And they will send these establishment Republicans will send conservatives out after you to protect the narrative because they're all making money here. All but 4 of these senators voted for this funding. Moving forward, Republicans introduced the bill September 28th. In a debate on Thursday, Republican lawmakers argued young patients were taking hormones that could be physically damaging, something that the American Medical Association disputes. Yeah. There's absolute studies that prove that it can be long-term damaging, period, without question, 100%. And said that the transitioning surgeries for Oklahomans under 18 should be outlawed. Yeah, they should have been outlawed in February of 2021. But they stopped it because they needed to get that Board of Regents vote so they could unify this all under the OU apparatus and stick tax dollars into it, knowing that the ARPA funding was on its way by that point. Ask Tom Cole. And what did he do? He made sure that data vertical alignment, that data thing passed at the federal level. Representative Tom Cole, snake in the grass. Oh, and I know that is the most powerful man in Oklahoma, I have no doubt. And his lackey, Greg Treat, Senator Pro Tem of the Senate. To promote and help facilitate with taxpayer money, the gender reassignment should be disallowed in the state. State Senator Jake Merrick said, I think it reflects the majority of the opinions and values held in this state. That's right. And he said that on my podcast. Several Democratic lawmakers in the House, meanwhile, yielded their time to State Rep Mari Turner D., Oklahoma's first openly non-binary legislator, who appealed to the colleagues not to be influenced by social media and phone call campaigns. Why not? Why not? Why shouldn't you be influenced by phone calls from your constituents? Moving forward, I hope that one day you will understand maybe a little bit of what it's like to be born into a body that isn't yours. That's what our youth across Oklahoma are facing, Turner said, adding that they came out to their mother in the second grade. Oh God. Okay, moving forward, I'm not going to get stuck. Oklahoma has the money to take care of our people, and we do not have to wage this war against them and don't have to use our children, our youth, as pawns. Please vote no. This is all money over long term. These kids will be addicted and be forced to rely upon the pharmaceutical and medical industry for the rest of their entire lives if they do this. And they're claiming it's for the kids. The bill passed the House 68 to 23 following the Senate approval at 31-13. Yeah, I really, really, really need to go through these vote counts. I think we'll do them live on air. What do you think? Although the votes were largely along party lines, a few Republicans in both chambers voted against the bill, either because they said the language targeting the OU health program wasn't strong enough, or because they were opposed to accepting and doling out the pandemic relief funds altogether. OU Health reacted quickly to the measure, saying last week that it was already proactively planning ceasing of certain gender medicine services. BS. But Richard Longren, president and CEO of OU Health, sent an email on Friday to employees of OU healthcare system saying that although he knew some members of the legislature might introduce bills targeting the transgender program, he did not expect it to be tagged to the ARPA request. Right, which is why I had that happen. Which was my plan the whole time. Because the only time you get Republicans to do anything is if you threaten their cookie jar. And I'm sorry, a lot of my conservative friends just helped rescue them from this narrative with the narrative that they won something. And they honestly should, and they won't admit it. But I'm going to tell you this. I've been in this fight for at least 3.5 years. And I came up with some of these people who have now much, much larger followings than me. Okay? I've helped them through critical race theory, through DEI, through queer theory. I've helped them at differing points with no fanfare. The least you can do is talk to the damn people on the ground, folks. That's the least you can do. And not undermine the work that we're doing here on the ground with very little help, with none of the funding you have, without 400,000 followers. The least you could do is, hey, throw us a bone, at least say, hey, maybe tell me what's going on down here before I throw my mouth into this and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And I'm sorry, if we're really friends, because I hear that all the time, well, alienating friends. I'm not saying you're bad people, man. But if we're really friends, we should be able to tell each other hard truths. Or are we just lackeys? Because I'm not beneath you. You're not above my pay grade. You just got more funding than me. But I made the Washington Post by myself, doing work by myself, without your funding, just trying to actually fight to end this. And I'm not talking myself up for making the Washington Post. I'm just saying that I've done this work really hard to much of my own consternation that has hurt my own chances for employment in academia and anywhere else in many ways. Because I came out here because I thought it was important. I don't have generous benefactors that run me around. I don't have media companies that pay me to write articles. I did this because I thought it was right. And you come out and you take the you assign wins because the establishment uses you to do that to overshadow what's actually happening, and you just go right along with it. You know, at least talk to us. At least ask me what the hell is going on, and don't believe everything that these people say about me, which I know they do, because I've had it reported to me. I've seen it in writing. Just talk to us. All right. Lofgren also expressed dismay that the legislature required that the transgender medical care stop immediately. So this is the CEO of OU Health. So you know his agenda. We were not provided with a reasonable timeline to safely transition the care of our patients, he wrote in the email that was obtained by Washington Post. I'm sure it was obtained. I'm sure they wanted to see this because again, it's all theater. This is theater. For our physicians, it is morally distressing to the guiding principles of our profession and our Hippocratic oath. Oh my gosh. And this is an administrator, by the way. Whether he's an actual doctor or not, didn't call him Dr. Lofgren. So he's talking about our Hippocratic oath. He's not a doctor. And if he is, he didn't identify himself as one. For physicians, it is morally distressing to the guiding principles of our profession and our Hippocratic oath not to be able to provide safe transition of care. But we have to comply with the law. There is no law. The only thing is that if you do this, you don't get the money. That's it. So they still have the choice to do it. They just won't get the money. But again, the money's being used to build the beds that will house the kids before and after the fact. It's not for the surgeries or the hormone therapies themselves. The ARPA money. A group of Republican lawmakers and the podcasters are pushing for more. You damn right. Last week, a group of senators held a news conference, which we weren't invited to cover, which Megan Fox was super pissed about. Go watch my first interview with Jake Merrick. It's the one without a thumbnail. You'll see it at the end. She was super pissed because I was 15 minutes away, and if they would have just called me, they knew it was happening at least an hour and a half before the damn thing. And I could have live streamed it, and they didn't want me there. A group of lawmakers and the podcasters are pushing for more. Last week, a group of senators held a news conference saying that the next step should be a permanent statewide ban on medical services that assist Oklahoma youth with gender transitioning. We should have an immediate statewide prohibition on these surgeries, on these puberty blockers, on what is being done to these children, Senator Nathan Dahm, who recently appeared on Ousley's podcast, said at the news conference. Dahm, who has previously introduced legislation on this topic, but has so far failed to get a hearing, did not respond to calls seeking comment. I bet he didn't. On Saturday, Republican lawmakers continued to push for a statewide ban, appealing to Stitt to call another special session, which he could do and won't. Which is why I will call you, sir, a feckless coward. Where is your Oklahoma standard, sir? We can't wait Well, hold on. Let me make sure. Seeking to comment. On Saturday, Republican lawmakers continue to push for a statewide ban, appealing to Stitt to call another special session. We can't wait until the session and hope we can get something passed. This is your moment, Merrick said in a tweet, tagging Fox and Ousley. That's right. He did. And guess what? They pushed Jake Merrick out of office. They targeted him with dark money because he voted against school choice. And he is by far, I think, the most principled senator in the whole place. And they targeted him to kick him out. The same people that are allowing this to happen kicked him out, targeted him with dark money because he wouldn't support school choice. Think about it. The post came days after Merrick appeared on Ousley's podcast. Merrick did not respond to a call seeking comment. But Stitt on Tuesday said he won't call another special session on the matter. Ho, coward. You feckless coward. And instead called for a permanent ban on the treatments to be passed next year, much less likely with what's going to be a more liberal or left-leaning Republican establishment, Senate and House. Because of people like Jake Merrick not being there. Guaranteed. I'm calling for the legislature to ban all irreversible gender transition. Good. Call on them to do it now, Governor. Call on them to do it now. Swipe your pen. Call the session. Force them into it. And then take your considerable bully pulpit in the state and point at the people that say, you're the one stopping this. Senator Greg Treat. Speaker McCall. You didn't have any problem doing that when Speaker McCall stopped the school choice bill. You pointed it right at him. Where is your Oklahoma standard, sir? I'm sorry, it's very upsetting because these kids are being run through this. And you can say whatever the hell you want about me. I'm doing this with no protection and no power at all. And at least I have the guts to do it. I'm calling for, he says, I quote, I'm calling for the legislative ban on all irreversible gender transition surgeries and hormone therapies on minors when they convene next session, February 2023. And he's so worried about this freaking election, ladies and gentlemen. What if he's not there? It's bullshit. It's absolute BS. Advocates say the bill Stitt signed on Tuesday has already set a dangerous precedent, I bet. It's about funding health care for children. Mutilation is not health care. Okay? Hormone blockers and puberty blockers that will castrate and make your kids infertile are not health care. It's about funding health care for children, in that quote. And they are making that contingent on denying them medically necessary care for them on the basis of discrimination and gender identity, Oakley said. And that's the end of the article. So she got the order of operations right. She quoted the people right. She misconstrued some things, I think, due to a left-leaning bias. But overall, this is one of the better articles I've seen come from the Washington Post. At least it gets the order of operations correct. And like I said, I'm doing this on my own. And I'm taking on the most powerful people in this state. I got greeted the other day by a guy. He said, hey, man, it's finally nice to meet the guy that's pissing off everybody at the Capitol. It's a dangerous situation to be in. Especially here. And I know it's like, I mean, they're not used to being challenged. And I've already had them try to come after me and bury me once. Yes, Republicans. Help the left to try to bury me. because they know what I know, at least some of it. And what they know that I know is very scary for them. So here's where I'm at, ladies and gentlemen. Here's my call to action. You need to call the governor. I don't care if you're in state or out of state. You need to call the governor, call your representatives and every other one of them too, and keep them up on this. The governor made a promise. You understand? The governor made a promise. Now, here's what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to tie this to school choice somehow. And if there's another poison pill, I think that might be it. So we'll see. But I will very soon be calling out every person by name who voted for this funding because they know it's the poison pill. They elected to take $1.9 billion into this state that is going to, the governor wants a tax cut bill. And if he would just not take this money, it would be a better tax cut for the state of Oklahoma. Prove me wrong. So, but call them and keep calling them. Keep calling them every day about this issue. Don't let them forget, because what they're going to count on is through the election that you forget. And they're probably going to be right. I'm going to do my best to make sure you don't. And like I've said before, when I found out I was having a little girl, because most of what I've talked about up to this point has been CRT, DEI. It's what I dealt with. And this is all connected to that very, very closely, because it's all done in the name of inclusion, right? But when I found out I was having a daughter, it was on. I haven't even met that little girl yet. And if you try to hurt her, no, 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 no. Mm-mm. And if there's one thing you can know about me, and I think even my widest detractors would say this about me, I don't give up. I'm like a snapping turtle. I don't let go until the thunder rolls. And I'm scrappy. So that's my first mention in the Washington Post. We'll see what happens. I've got more up the stream here. But again, please like, subscribe, share the video. Super chats are open if you want to ask me any questions. I've been told that if I actually want that to work, that I can't read stuff on the air. So I'm sorry about that. I just gotta all the people that are here, Chase K, none of your business, Melinda. I want to make sure that I at least call you out, because I don't expect you to give me money all the time. But this is what I'm doing for a living now, guys. Wikipedia snippet. Guys who come in and are here all the time. I really appreciate you guys. And Red Pill Broadcast. I appreciate you guys and for commenting. Keep up the good fight. Don't let these people lie to you. Okay? Don't let them pull the wool over your eyes. Because as long as we let them, they will. And guys, I don't expect you to give me money you don't have. Don't do that. It's okay. But it's like I'm just telling you what I'm doing here. So, and I'll keep doing it. I feel like I've done it this long. At least we're making a headway now. Some. Everything, we are making some headway. We've at least got their attention. But they are going to come after me. They already are. So pray for me. If you pray. And like, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video. That helps out a lot too. Because I'm the only person I know that's gone on Timcast IRL and not had a bump. Yeah, so if you want to check me out, if you watch Timcast IRL, I was on there Thursday. It was a fun time. So go check that out. It was fun. We didn't get to talk about as much of the things that I'm used to talking about. I think I held my own for the first time, Yes, I've got a merch link in the thing. I've got merch. I'm trying to update it and get better at it, but I got merch. So you can go buy some merch. The link should be in the thing. I need to promote that too, don't I, guys? You gotta help me remember these things. I'm not used to selling myself. That's not what I um but so I want to keep you guys any longer because I'm starting to fade a little bit, but thanks for stopping by. Keep following me and keep up the good fight, all right? Thank you, and I'll see you later.